Alright, everybody. As all of you guys know, the Taliban, not exactly the best of people. They're a radically far-right, religious extremist militia group, essentially, that ever since the US pulled out of Afghanistan, Kabul fell in less than a week to, or I guess it's actually pronounced Kabul, fell in a week to the Taliban. Within a month, they were breaking storefronts to pull all the female mannequins, or the female-shaped looking mannequins, out of these stores that had women's clothing on them, to burn the mannequins after decapitating them, as the clothing is now illegal there, as is women owning businesses, women going to school, women going out in public without a man, you know, the huge. It's pretty bad. Now, mind you, when the US was there, despite what lefties will tell you about how, like, across the world, like, wherever the US does its imperialism, all the people there fucking hate it and want the US gone, and they hate the American devil or whatever, it's not really the case, as it turns out. Like, more often than not, that conception, especially nowadays, is actually a myth. Particularly, it is in Afghanistan. You see, there is a lot of polling that exists pre-US pullout of Afghanistan, polling the, like Afghan people, particularly in Kabul, on their opinion on the US pulling out. And overwhelmingly, and I mean like 80-something% of Afghan women answered that they do not want the US pulling out unless the terms have been met with the Taliban, who they all knew would take over the second the US pulled out. There was no question of it. It's why when I said the Taliban will take over if the US pulls out, and it will be awful for these reasons, this is the ideology of the Taliban, and I got canceled for it, I was so confused because it was just right there. And of course, what happened, so there you go. And the women there are not very happy. Now, one of the go-to responses I've actually gotten from lefties that are like very against the US doing anything against any force outside of America, I guess, or like the America always bad people, are, and I shit you not, they say, yes, US imperialism is good if it's for women's rights. And my answer to that is, yeah? Yeah, generally the times where the US is the most, like, I would argue, morally okay in going out and sticking their nose into a problem that doesn't involve them is when they actually are fighting against a bad force that is regressive and, like, hyper-conservative and anti-civil right. I'd say it's one of the few, like, Afghanistan is one of the few cases where the left is wrong about American imperialism. I'm sorry, it just is, and the people of Afghanistan would tell you just as much, both before and after the US pulled out. I mean, hell, there was a reason why there were, like, hundreds of Afghans, like, climbing onto that plane, trying to hold on to the sides of it, like, onto the landing gear, to get out of the country. Who the fuck... Do you really think that they didn't know how bad it would be and want the US to stay when they're literally grabbing onto the landing gear to try to, like, hold on to the plane to get out of Afghanistan? Because they think that is a better chance for them than staying in Kabul when the Taliban gets there? Think about that for a second. Trust me. It's bad. The Taliban, they are bad. They are not good in the way they are currently running Afghanistan, and they are not good in the way that they were trying to gain control of Afghanistan before the US pulled out of the capital. However, now that we've had a couple years under our belt of Taliban control of Afghanistan, we are now seeing them transition from being a military occupier force type of way of handling themselves and attempting to actually form a government and a military and run a country. And in some ways, they've done some surprisingly good things in that respect. They've tried to encourage tourism quite a bit by, like, basically restoring a lot of the sites that were destroyed by them and trying to, like, you know, like, guard them with their own soldiers and stuff. So there is definitely, like, a broken clock is right twice a day situations that are happening. Like, there are some good, I would say morally neutral, honestly, things that they've done, but the bad really outweighs the minute amount of good things they've done since they've taken control of the country. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is a new headline that's just hit that really just seals the deal for me on the state of YouTube. Mind you, Susan Wojcicki stopped being CEO of YouTube a couple years ago. The current CEO of YouTube is a crypto bro and crypto NFT bro and friend of Elon Musk. Like, actual buddy of Elon Musk's. So, like, if you're wondering why YouTube feels like it's gotten a lot worse in the last couple of years, no, a friend of Elon Musk who is very avowed and loud about his love of NFTs and crypto is currently the CEO of YouTube. And all the while, the Taliban, who once smashed TVs, are now fostering YouTubers to promote their image. The Taliban-run government is fostering a thriving community of YouTube influencers and video bloggers in Afghanistan, seeking to shape a positive narrative about the country by rewarding those who have welcomed viewpoints with access to stories that can draw millions of views online. Mind you, nothing they say can go against the Taliban. One of the people that they have as part of their program was arrested for making a video that criticized the Taliban at one point. So, like, yeah. They're pretty strict about what they can and can't say. The Taliban, which smashed televisions and burned films in the 1990s during its first stint in power, is now using modern video technology in its radical campaign to remake Afghanistan. The regime grants influencers coveted broadcasting licenses that put them on an equal footing with TV networks and radio stations, and threatens to withdraw the licenses of those who break official rules. The influencers, whose work is seen as benefiting the regime, have been allowed to embed with government ministries and showcase their achievements. Meanwhile, videos that are critical of the Taliban, mind you, isn't it fucking crazy that YouTube just allows the Taliban to run propaganda on their platform? That's just a thing that's allowed now. So much so that there are headlines about how it is a thing. I'm sure it's not allowed in their TOS, but they're not actually enforcing their TOS on anything other than really small, non-monetarily profitable channels. So, like, my channel will literally get a false strike because a million-view YouTuber who I was covering said something that was TOS, and the bots tagged me because I'm a small channel, but they don't tag the million-sub YouTuber I was covering who actually said the thing that was TOS that the bots detected. That's just kind of been a regularly occurring thing for a while now that's kind of supported this idea, but then, of course, you've got the fact that the Taliban has official YouTube channels where they are uploading and running their propaganda, and YouTube apparently doesn't give a damn. Meanwhile, videos that are critical of the Taliban have largely disappeared from platforms such as YouTube over the past 2 years as a result of Taliban pressure and self-censorship, according to interviews with 10 content creators in Afghanistan and neighboring Pakistan. The government has tightly restricted what can be said and worn in online appearances, and 2 influencers said that they were detained and interrogated after running afoul of the Taliban's rules. Often, however, relations between influencers and the Taliban are mutually rewarding. The most successful influencers can earn thousands of dollars in foreign advertising revenue per video. Mind you, whatever the wages are in, like, Afghanistan, if you are getting paid, like, a minuscule amount for a YouTuber in USD, that amount is going to be a lot in other countries. The example I used earlier was my friend who I considered hiring for doing art and editing YouTube shorts for me, who lives in the Philippines, where I could pay like half of what I would typically pay an editor here in America, and it would be twice the living wage in the Philippines. So, much in that same way, these YouTubers making foreign wages from YouTube, a US company paying USD, they're going to be making a whole lot of fucking money, living in the highest of the high 1% within Afghanistan. In fact, one of those YouTubers is here in his, like, condo apartment. Here's what the life of, like, Afghan Taliban YouTubers looks like. They live the nicest of the nice lives that you can really get without being, like, part of the oligarchy or whatever. Because they're making USD. They're making YouTube money. American YouTube money, which outpaces the wages of the average Afghan by, like, magnitudes upon magnitudes upon magnitudes. It's like winning the lottery every month for him. Like, imagine you won, like, $10 million a month in the lottery. That's probably, like, what it's like for him. Like, scaled, you know? And accounting for buying power. This channel is called Kabul Lovers. Often, however, relations... Oh, yeah, I already read that one. One of the top channels, Our Afghanistan, with over 350,000 YouTube subscribers. Guys, these Taliban YouTube channels are not tiny little channels getting under YouTube's radar. They know about channels with 350,000 subs. Guys, they sent them a play button. YouTube sent the Taliban propaganda YouTube channel a silver play button. They know. The silver play button comes with a signed letter from the CEO of YouTube. They print out a letter and the CEO of YouTube signs it themselves for every gold and silver play button. When I get my silver play button, it'll have the same thing. The CEO of YouTube signatured the congratulations letter that came with the silver play button that went to this Taliban-sponsored, openly Taliban-sponsored, like Taliban propaganda channel on YouTube. Well, shit, this is fucking ridiculous. Well, I want to remind you all, by the way, guys, guess who is currently been completely demonetized by YouTube? Through and through. A lefty YouTuber who recently has been completely demonetized because of claims that his content supports terrorism. Dylan Burns. Lefty channels across the board are getting striked for misinformation, hate speech, or medical misinformation, I should say, hate speech, and promoting terrorism. Meanwhile, the platform itself, the CEO is signaturing letters congratulating the Kabul Lovers Taliban YouTube propaganda channel on reaching 100,000 subs and sending them a silver play button. Yeah, don't you guys know? Dylan Burns for the last 3 months has been completely demonetized by YouTube as a punishment for quote-unquote being pro-terrorism, and YouTube has continuously upheld the decision on Twitter for months. Like, every week, Dylan tries to get YouTube to fix it, and they uphold the decision every time publicly, with all the comments roasting them. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Team YouTube? They uphold it every time, saying, sorry, but your content clearly violates our policy on promoting terrorism. Every time. That is the state of YouTube. YouTube is going through a softer version of what Twitter is right now. We have a right-wing, conservative chud crypto bro at the front of YouTube, and he is very subtly pulling the strings to ensure that the people who don't necessarily like his politics aren't exactly doing too well right now. You'll notice that a lot of lefty channels have also taken a hit in the algorithm, just across the board as of late, ever since he became CEO, and that's not even counting the constant false strikes and demonetizations across entire channels. Yeah. Oh, also, any video I make criticizing Russia, if I have Russia in the title or in any of the metadata whatsoever, it gets massively suppressed by YouTube. I'm talking like 20% of expected viewership, according to YouTube analytics, if it has Russia mentioned anywhere in the metadata. So, for example, the video where I covered the Russian political ad, we deliberately did not include Russia in any of the tags or metadata, and sure enough, it blew up, despite having a pixelated black dildo in the thumbnail. It blew up and got shitloads of views because we left Russia out of any of the metadata. If we uploaded that video and it was Russian anti-gay campaign ad, the video would have 1,000 views right now. YouTube suppresses the fuck out of any content that mentions or seemingly is critical of Russia. Because there's a lot of really big content on YouTube, like the Russia Today, like the official Russian propaganda media outlets, because that's existed for Russia for a while on YouTube now. Those do just fine. So it seems to just be YouTubers criticizing Russia that are getting massively shut down. But if you just exclude Russia from the same exact title and metadata and video, the video blows up. Same topic, same everything, just you don't mention Russia in a way that YouTube can see it. I hope the U.S. government forces him out. The CEO is harming our national security. I would argue, yeah, the current YouTube CEO is harming the U.S.'s national security. One of the top channels, Our Afghanistan, with over 350,000 YouTube subscribers, has focused on a widely known backer of the Taliban named General Mobin, often shown distributing donated winter clothing, talking to soldiers, or visiting hospital patients. Some channels, such as Dastaran, Kabul, with over 40,000 subscribers, focus almost entirely on urban development under the Taliban. Mind you, these videos, when I say propaganda videos, you may be thinking like, fuck all these things, women need to be in the house. Yeah. No, these videos are meant to appeal to Afghans that aren't in Afghanistan. These videos are meant to appeal to the millions of Afghans that live outside of Afghanistan who have easy internet connection and want to keep up with what's happening in their country. And so the Taliban is ensuring the only real source to find out what's happening in their country is Taliban-run, sponsored, and approved media outlets such as YouTubers. The goal of this is not to, enforce the Taliban's will upon the people of Afghanistan, but to enforce that under the Taliban, Afghanistan's actually doing really well to the Afghans outside of Afghanistan. Others, such as Milad Azizi, Kabul Lovers, mix scripted entertainment videos with content featuring Taliban officials. That approach has made Kabul Lovers one of the country's most successful YouTube channels over the past 2 years. Azizi, 23, has hired about 20 employees and rents space in a high-rise building. This is literally like Taliban Mr. Beast, by the way, is what this guy's content is. I looked him up. This guy is huge, and he is pretty much the Afghan, Taliban-sponsored Mr. Beast. His channel recently drew more than 2.6 million views with a series in which his video team embedded with morality police from the Ministry of Vice and Virtue as they searched for what they said were suspected witches. That's right, in one of these videos, it's him going around the morality police hunting for witches on the streets of Kabul, I guess. Yeah, an actual witch hunt. And it was a YouTube video. Actual witch hunting was uploaded onto YouTube and is monetized and approved by YouTube, and they have a silver play button. It is the Taliban roaming the streets to find women to punish, uploaded on YouTube, and totally allowed. Let's report it. Nothing will happen. Guys, nothing will happen. You know that, right? Once you reach a certain size, YouTube just looks the other way. Nothing will happen. But, for example, I wake up oftentimes, in the morning to a false strike on my channel because the bots search very closely at small channels that are causing a ruckus and talking about, controversial topics. But these big channels that are making YouTube a lot of money, they will look the other way as long as they feasibly can. And by look the other way, I mean the CEO will literally sign a printed letter that goes along with their silver play button. President Biden is going to have to make a much stronger stance on this stuff next year. I really hope he does. I hope he wins, and I hope he goes hard against the current CEO of YouTube and, outright calls him, a traitor to the U.S. Because that's really what he is. The punishing of content creators criticizing Russia and the, support of the Taliban. Dude, the CEO of YouTube's got to go. Let me show you what this guy is, by the way. CEO of YouTube. Neil Mohan. This is his Wikipedia page, and this is him. This is the current CEO of YouTube. Neil Mohan is an American business executive who is the current chief executive officer of YouTube. He was born in Lafayette, Indiana. He was Google. On April 13, 2007, Google agreed to acquire DoubleClick for $3.1 billion. Google executive Susan Wojcicki largely orchestrated this action. For the next 15 years, she worked extensively with Mohan, who formally joined Google in 2007, playing a key role in the integration process with DoubleClick. While at Google, Mohan managed that the company's 2010 US $85 million acquisition of Invite Media. Before moving to YouTube, he was Senior Vice President of Display and Video Ads at Google. In 2011, Rosenblatt, who was now a board member of Twitter, attempted to hire Mohan as Chief Product Officer. Though Mohan nearly accepted, Google paid him $100 million to remain at the company. A former Facebook senior executive also stated that he attempted to hire Mohan while he was at Google. Mohan joined YouTube, a Google subsidiary, in 2015 as Chief Product Officer. During his time at the company, he managed a number of its marquees through the late 2010s and early 2020s, including YouTube Music, TV, Premium, and Shorts. Oh, Shorts. The fact that he was behind Shorts is a very good sign of how shit he is. Following September 2020, Mohan appeared before Congress and participated in a White House summit during which he introduced a new content moderation policy for YouTube aimed at addressing violent extremist content on the platform. This policy expanded upon previous ones targeting groups such as ISIS by prohibiting content that glorified violence or sought to recruit. Dude, he's like Gus Fring. Oh my god, he's playing this shit like he's Gus Fring. Do you guys know how, like, in Breaking Bad, Gus, while being like the leader of the biggest meth empire in the entire country, was working with and funding the police department and doing like hosting their dinners and like their big like fundraising events and stuff like that, and was like their biggest donor, and constantly at the police station smiling and shaking hands with people, hiding in plain sight? That's what this dude is doing. He's literally hiding in plain sight while he is actively behind the demonetization and mass false striking of any content that is criticizing this shit. He is in front of fucking Congress at a summit talking about how they're gonna work to expand their policies against violent extremists like ISIS. What they meant by that is we're going to literally shut down any channels that attempt to call out the existence of violent extremists on the platform. Absolutely amazing.